Suddenly, Suzuko hugs his feet and tells him that she is hungry. He replies, okay, and asks her if there is still any left from the group before. But Suzuko looks at him, confused. He wonders why she has reverted to her childlike appearance and if it is because her powers increased from approaching perfection, or maybe she remembered being like that with her original father. So he asks her if she doesn't remember it. Suzuko thinks for a moment and opens her huge mouth in her stomach while telling him that there is a bit left, making him notice that it is the crystals from the Black Forest's monsters, and he can't believe that there are hardly any left. He asks her if she ate most of them, and she replies, yes. He knows that when Suzuko eats monsters' remains, they turn into crystals, and he thinks it is more efficient than defeating them, as they'll fetch a reasonable price. Then he tells Suzuko that he'll get her something delicious to eat, so he'll be taking that crystal, to which she replies, okay. Later, they arrive at Getsurin City, and he looks at the massive building in disgust, knowing that the job holder cooperative had also formed early. He doesn't want to go to the cooperative, so he has no choice but to sell them on the black market. Then he notices many people on the ground, making him think that it has only been a week since the dungeons appeared, but the black market is already active. Then he sees the job holder engineer, Takara Kuro, on the side, making him remember that Takara Kuro would become Getsurin City's boss 10 years from now, a despicable guy who monopolized the low-level dungeons. Then he tells Kuro that he'd like to sell some dungeon resources while remembering the old Kuro. Kuro looks at him and tells him to get lost because, without a doubt, it is something he stole, and he doesn't need that kind of trouble, making him angry. Suzuko tells him that she doesn't like Kuro. He tells Kuro that if he takes a look, he'll know they weren't stolen. And then he shows the crystal to Kuro, making Kuro ask him, what kind of crystal is it? He tells Kuro that it is a monster's crystal, but Kuro tells him that he can't trade in unknown goods. Then Kuro examines it and is shocked to see that it is a crystal from the Kyo of the Black Forest with 20% purity, and its suggested value is 10,000 gold. Kuro asks him how he got his hands on an item of such high purity, and he replies that he'll just say that it was his own technique. Then he asks Kuro if he will trade for it because if not, he'll try somewhere else. Kuro excitedly tells him that he'll take them all and introduces himself to him while offering his hand. He accepts Kuro's hand while Kuro tells him that the official exchange rate is 10,000. But he'll give him 100,000 for the lot, to which he replies, we have a deal, knowing that it will take care of Suzuko's food for now. Suzuko tells him that she is hungry, and he suggests they go find something good for her to eat. He reflects on how he used to be constantly on the brink of death, struggling just to make money, but now he has plenty. Suzuko then informs him that there are people following them, causing him to take notice and wonder if Kuro sold him out to some bad individuals right from the start. Meanwhile, in a room, Kuro informs his boss that he bought some goods from the Black Forest, which are different from anything they've encountered before. Additionally, he believes the mysterious child might be able to about the speed player. Kuro's boss praises him and orders him to continue monitoring that kid. Back outside, Suzuko asks him if they are coming to capture her, and he reassures her that they are not after her, they are after him. Suzuko inquires if she can eat them, but he reminds her that he keeps telling her no. The leader of the men orders his group to apprehend him, and he notices this and quickly runs away, shouting to Suzuko that they are fleeing. Suzuko also runs away, finding it fun and telling him to wait for her. The men chasing him instruct him to come back, and he realizes that they seem relentless. He suggests to Suzuko that they should head to the rooftops. Suzuko picks him up and agrees, then jumps while holding him. The men chasing them can't believe it. I think he can fly, and I wonder if he's a job holder. They land on the rooftop, and Suzuko expresses her desire to eat them. He wonders if these are just normal people and if it means they aren't Kuro's lackeys. He then teases the pursuing men, asking them if they want some of those crystals, and invites them to come and get them. He turns around, surprising them, and they angrily call him a cheeky brat, telling him not to mess with them. He simply tells Suzuko that they should go. Suddenly, he heard someone land behind his back, and other men appeared around him as well. He wondered who these guys were and thought it was a bit excessive just for monster crystals. The men were hovering in midair, and one of them greeted him. The man introduced themselves as being from the Black Owl Company and apologized for the inconvenience, but told him he would have to comply with their demands. Suzuko told him that she wanted to eat already, and he whispered to her that he would end it quickly, all the while wondering why the Black Owl Company's job holders were interested in him. Meanwhile, in Getsurin Plaza, Doll asked where they were and if all the people around her were her friends. Violet strings emerged from her and flew to every person in the plaza. She called them all, and they gathered in front of her. Then she asked if any of them had seen her friend while showing Leo's face, and she also showed Suzuko's figure while telling everyone that they were her best friends. The people looked at her with interest, and he asked them if they didn't know. He then ordered them to go find her best friends. On the other hand, Mickey hurried past the crowd, asking the person on the other line if it was a muster call for job holders, and told them that she would head there immediately. Doll heard it, making her surprised. Mickey ran swiftly while telling the person on the other line that she would hurry over. But when the person on the other line informed her that there was no need to hurry, she stopped running, making people look at her. She felt someone's gaze as if someone was watching her, but when she looked back, people were walking in their own directions. Then she noticed a doll in the center and was amazed by its beauty. She wondered if the doll was approaching her and decided to try greeting her, but the doll slowly disappeared, leaving her puzzled as to why she vanished. Then she turned around, saying that she needed to hurry to headquarters, without realizing that people were glaring at her. Doll touched her blue aura, stating that she had found it the information about her friends. She sensed the lad's force of will from her body, the scent of the Black Forest's master, too. Doll began walking with the people under her control, following Mickey in silence. Doll said that for the sake of that great one, she would befriend Mickey, making Mickey feel worn out and wonder if she was in too much of a hurry. Meanwhile, on the rooftop, Leo tells the man that he is just a sundry seller, so he doesn't have any high-class goods. If he wants, he'll tell him where he got his goods from. However, men appear behind him while telling him not to play dumb and they're going to beat him black and blue. The man tried to grab him, but fortunately, he dodged it in time, saying that it was close. He told them that they should all calm down, but someone was trying to grab him from behind again. He noticed it and jumped away to avoid it while telling them that they should talk it out. Suzuko told him that it was fun while he was busy telling the men that he'd tell them where he got his goods. One of the men asked their leader what they should do when normal methods weren't working, and the leader replied that Leo was an interesting kid. Then, the man told the men to feel free to beat Leo to a pulp. Suddenly, all the men jumped forward to him together and attacked him, making him surprise. One of the men tries to punch him, but he avoids it while asking why. The leader released his power to attack him while asking him if he knew the Black Forest Speed Player. But Leo just asked the man what it was, although he knew that it was his title that had a 30% speed increase, passive skill of 10%, and an increase in dynamic visual acuity. The leader's power wrapped around him while asking him if that clear bonus from the Black Forest was so unusual. The power grabbed him, making him shout in pain, and the leader lifted him up while telling him that they were looking for the speed player with the ID keeper. Suzuka worriedly tells him that he is floating, and the leader teasingly asks him if he would happen to know where they are. The man also told him that he'd better hurry up. He asked the man why they were looking for him. The man replied that it was to find out the secret to clearing dungeons. Leo thought it was a shoddy attack because wrapping his body in spiritual power is nothing. But he decided to go along with the man to get some information. But then he saw something that shocked him, and he saw Suzuko asking the man what he was doing to her daddy, while the man told him to give it up. Suzuko was about to eat the man while calling him a bad man, but the man arrogantly ordered him to tell him what he knew. Leo shouted, stopped in panic, and released his power that freed him from the man's spiritual power. The man was pushed to the ground in shock, and Suzuko looked at him confused. Leo got down on the ground, making the man ask him what he did and if he thought he was tough. But then the men's expressions changed when they saw him and asked what was wrong with his face. Suzuko ran behind him in worry, and he told her that he was fine while worrying that it almost made Suzuko reveal herself. He apologized to them and told them that he didn't like talking about that player. The man furiously took off his coat while calling him a little piece of shit and said that he won't go easy anymore. Then the man ordered his men to psych themselves up, to which the men used their magic amplification. Then the leader ordered his men to rip Leo to shreds, to which the men followed and ran toward them. He noticed that it was a wind element speed boost, which is a troublesome skill. Suzuko told him that she was very hungry, while the system warned him that Suzuko was approaching a starvation status level of 20%. One of the men ran toward him to attack, but he avoided the attack, realizing that the man had speed. Then the man released a strong power that created a strong air, and the other men appeared around him and jumped to attack him. But he just gathered his power in his hand, thinking that it makes it easier. Then he attacked them with his spiritual attack, making the men thrown away. The leader panicked, asking if it was a spiritual attack. He looked at his hand with lines, knowing that it was a side effect again, and realized that Suzuko was going into starvation mode, so she needed to feed as soon as possible. Then he told the man to give him a monster item, but the man angrily told him not to think he had one. Then the man cast his power while shoutingly telling him to try that one on for size. Then the man attacked him with it, but he just let it fly toward him, saying that it was impressive. Then he told Suzuko to give him a hand because that man has a lot of food. Suzuko immediately ran to the man while shouting that she was helping. The man teasingly asked him if he had learned his lesson, without knowing Suzuko was about to grab him. Then Suzuko squeezed the man on the ground, to which he whispered his thanks to Suzuko. He told the man about those monsters' items and if he had any. They were all going to die there, while Suzuko looked at him in hunger, knowing that he'd die too. The man replied that he did have some and begged him to take anything he wanted and not kill him. So he grabbed Roy Eater's arm, which was pretty expensive, and asked the man if he really can have it. Then he fed it to Suzuko, so Suzuko's hunger recovered to 40%, while the man fearfully told him to help himself because it was all his. The man noticed that the items were disappearing, which means Leo could erase them the same way, and told him that they are even now. He asked the man if they were really offering $6 million for information on the speed player. The man replied that the job holder cooperative guaranteed it and asked him if he had any information, to which he replied not really, at the same time being tempted to sell himself out. But he didn't want the company to become suspicious of him. He stood up and told the man that he despises the speed player, making the leader fearfully ask why he despises the speed player. He replied that it's because it was the speed player's fault that he became like this, and the speed player is seriously bad news. He pointed his finger at his face and asked the man if he wanted to look like this because the speed player gave it to him as a bonus. The man replied that he'd rather not. Suddenly, the man's phone rang, and the man saw that it was a mustering call. He noticed it and was surprised that it was an urgent assembly call for job holders and wondered if something happened in Getzer City. He told the man that it was interesting and they should take a look. He asked the man if there was a problem, and the man basically replied no. The other man told him that, in fact, they were honored, making him excitedly ask if they should go. Meanwhile, outside, the sky cracked, and Getzer City Mayor Fujinami Satoru noticed that it was a dungeon rift. His secretary told him that it was the portent of a dungeon's advent and asked him if she should start evacuating Getzer City. He replied that they hadn't reached that stage yet, and unlike previous dungeon clears, they had a gathering of strong players. He knows that it was an incomplete dungeon or perhaps a large-scale dungeon. Suzuko called him, making him ask her why. She told him that she smelled family, making him surprised, and wondered if it was Suzuko's family. He asked her if she was sure, and she replied that she was sure it was the smell of her family. He thought it was very interesting because he was just going sightseeing. But he needed to change his plans, and if he was lucky, he might be able to meet some of Suzuko's family. He planned that while he was at it, he'll investigate that assembly order, and he couldn't help but think there is more to it than simply clearing the dungeon. Suddenly, the man called him, making him ask him what, and the man replied that the situation was completely different from the information they had. According to their information, that dungeon is supposed to have the power to bring about annihilation. But he was not getting that impression at all. He asked the man if it was okay for him to leak that information to him. And the man replied that he thought it might be helpful to him, and that he should consider it an apology for their previous disrespect. Now that the man mentioned it, he remembered that, in his previous life, immediately after the Black Forest appeared in Naru City and the Level B Dungeon Wonderland in Kokuto Ward, also the Level B Dungeon Strange Paradise in Getzer City, and the simultaneous appearance of those two dungeons caused a major incident. But this time, the dungeon isn't even complete, and besides, he wonders how does the company knows about the outbreak of the catastrophe. He told the man that he was quite knowledgeable and asked the man what his name was. The man replied that he was called Akatsu, making him think that the Black Owl Company was full of mysteries. Akatsu told him that there are job holders in the company they've invested in as well, like the redhead girl in front of him, and he told him that she was super famous. The man called the lady Ryua, and she was a level B dragon handler, level 5, called Ryua. She waved hi to them, and Akatsu waved back, telling him that they were invested in Ryua, making him laugh. He knows that the Black Dragon handler Ryua is the future level S job holder and star of Sakito Ward, making him wonder if everyone gathered there are future big shots. Akatsu told him that if he was ever looking to invest, he should just let him know and they'll extend their warmest welcome. He told Akatsu that he'd consider it while thinking that he might have jumped on that offer if he didn't have Suzuko. Suddenly, a man reached him and put a hand on his head, asking him if he was a job holder too, then called him little boy, making him confused. Level B Preceptor in Team Gen Command, Level 7, Annie Gen, told him that his team was full of beauties and asked him if he wanted to be a chair for them because it's the height of luxury. He looked at the man wondering what the heck it was, and Nakatsu asked Gen what he was doing. Gen replied that he was soliciting that lad at the moment, and he angrily told Gen to get off of him. He knows that in the future, Gen will be the Fallen Emissary, and due to his mysterious ability, Gen would come to be known as the Fallen Emissary, making him wonder if Gen is just a pervert. Jen asked him if he didn't want to be stepped on by Ryu and told him that it was quite a privilege, so he'd be the chair boy, making him furious and shouting, telling Jen to shut up. Ryu called Jen his captain in frustration and told him that he was so embarrassing. Jen angrily asked Ryu what it meant and who she thought he was. She sighed in frustration and angrily told her captain that if he said another word of that weirdness, she'll have him die. But Jen excitedly replied it was nice and she should give him more of it, making him think Jen was seriously mental. Ryu furiously told Jen to shut up and smacked Jen. Then she pulled Jen away while apologizing to him and told him that Jen was not right in the head, making Jen remind her that he was the captain. Akatsu waved goodbye to Ryu and told her that she was quite a handful she was managing. Ryu asked Jen what he wanted with that squirt and told him not to tell her that he wanted that squirt in the team. Jen replied that he was serious and wanted Leo because he sensed an extraordinary potential from Leo while looking at Leo glaring at them, making her tell Jen that he was joking. Akatsu told him that it was best to keep his distance from that man Jen, making him ask Akatsu why and if Leo isn't someone the company is investing it in. Jen replied yes in an awkward voice. Suzuko changed to her small figure while calling him daddy continuously, making him ask her what it was, and she happily replied that she found them. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe for more. Comment your thoughts below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to turn on notifications to catch the next part. Your support means everything. See you in the next one.